All right, let me share my screen.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, got it. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be back. I love these 15-minute things, and I always manage to pick like giant theoretical stuff to cram into 15 minutes. So as the other ones had been, it's just kind of like a little taste of polyvagal theory, that I think is an amazingly like applicable theory that might not answer all the questions of everything, but it really does kind of help to put some like biology behind what's going on in the mind and kind of connecting the two. So I always love the understanding of the science behind what's happening in the mind. All right, so for our polyvagal theory, we start with this autonomic nervous system, which is the platform for all lived experience. Our nervous system is kind of everything. So we have our central nervous system and then our peripheral one. And what we're focusing on today is all the way down there in the corner is our autonomic nervous system, is where our focus is, and that vagus nerve. So people like to say this is where our story begins, is in that autonomic nervous system where information enters our body. So our story begins when that information enters. So for polyvagal theory, it's broken down into 3 principles: neuroception, hierarchy, and co-regulation. So today we're just going to kind of bop through those 3 pretty quickly. There's always much more deep dives that you can take if this kind of strikes your fancy and really connects with you. So starting with neuroception. Neuroception is detection without awareness. So everything going on around us at any given time, our body is assessing and our mind is assessing, but like we're not conscious of it. So it's this like unconscious awareness of what's going on. So we're assessing what is going on outside in the environment. Like right now, I'm feeling pretty safe in my room. Nothing about my body or senses is like, duck or run. I'm not being, no cues are coming at me about that. Also inside my body, like nothing's really going on in there that's like, that's a problem. You should probably notice it and attend to it. Like everything's feeling okay. And then between people, so the interpersonal dynamic. So that neuroception is really anything that the nervous system is picking up from inside, outside, or in between, that is giving a cue to the body and the brain to respond or acknowledge or notice or perceive. So neuroception, that's a key piece of polyvagal theory. What really connects all of that, what is our neuroceptive piece, is the vagus nerve, which is also called the wanderer. It's a tree. It's the longest nerve in our body. It goes from our base of our skull all the way down to our tailbone. Key here is that this nervous system is not making a judgment about good or bad. It's only managing risk or safety. And that is key to know, because a lot of time we place a lot of judgment on our reactions and our responses, but there's no judgment. Our nervous system is not saying like, hey, this is a good thing that you're responding this way. Like, no, I'm just screaming right now because something about my external environment is saying scream and there's danger. Maybe that's true and accurate, maybe that's not true and accurate, but our body is, and our vagus nerve is just like telling us, this is your response right now to keep you safe. So that's all it's ever assessing is risk, safety, never good or bad. This is a quick little of what the vagus nerve is and all of the components of our body that it is connected to. So when it's assessing and sending signals, it's going from the bottom to the top and back down. So if something dangerous is happening, like, okay, all of that vagus nerve is hitting our lungs and our lungs constrict and we know like, okay, we gotta go. And it also will like slow our digestion, because you don't ever need digestion really when you're being like attacked by a tiger. It's not really helpful. We could use our energy elsewhere. And so our vagus nerve is connected to our intestines to tell us that and react in that way. So it's taken our whole body here. So here's kind of some examples. If there was danger, if our vagus nerve is noticing danger, it would be like, oh, I have an upset stomach and I'm experiencing pain and I'm feeling cold. So like we put all those things together, there could be some danger, or like what I'm trying to eat is not right. I should not be eating this anymore. But if it's a safe thing, then like whatever I'm trying to eat is just the right temperature, the texture is right. It is food. Like I have that information that I should be eating this because it qualifies as food. So like the vagus nerve is giving us all of this information from our head down and from our body up. So it's a bidirectional process. And if it ever senses danger, it's going to slow our digestion, it's going to raise our blood pressure, it's going to tense our muscles. So it's responding, but not in this conscious way. Again, remember the neuroception piece of it. Like not all of this are we thinking about, it's just we're responding. So that's our neuroception piece. Moving into the hierarchy of response is there's 3 pathways that service us for our survival. And that's key to remember because, again, it's not good or bad. It's risk versus safety. This is all about survival. So our parasympathetic, our ventral vagal state is one of safety and connection, health, growth, and we'll break these down even more. Sympathetic nervous system is much more about mobilization. I'm going to be protected through action. So I'm going to, the tiger's coming at me, I'm going to run, I'm going to hide, but like my muscles are moving and I'm going. So it's that fight or flight is found in that sympathetic nervous system. And then we have the dorsal vagal, which is when you're immobilized and you protect yourself through disappearing. So like can't move, I am playing dead, this tiger's coming at me and I am frozen. And so that's how your body would protect yourself, is through like this disappearing. So here's another kind of way to look at this. So in ventral vagal, I feel connected to the world. I'm able to access that. I feel safe. I'm good. Nothing is attacking me. I have no senses that something bad is happening. So I'm good. I can be creative. I can interact with the world fine. Sympathetic, that's when I'm sensing that I'm in danger. Something about my outside world or my inside sensations are telling me something's not right here, and you got to react. You got to fight or flight in order to stay alive. And then the last bottom one down there is that dorsal vagal, where I can't cope, I'm shutting down. And so really the way, so like Deb Dana and the other kind of polyvagal theorists, they like to call this a ladder. And this is kind of the intervention that people use, is based off of this autonomic ladder. And it kind of helps break it down for clients and for us to better understand is that we're at the top of the ladder, we're feeling safe and fun. We're in the middle of that ladder, that sympathetic, world is chaotic and very unfriendly. And then in that dorsal, it's the last resort, shutting down and collapse. So kind of another way to get more deep on each of these. So top of the ladder, that ventral vagal. Like I can co-regulate, I can self-regulate. You will hear a client when you're trying to like assess where they are on their ladder, you're going to hear a story of possibility. Like I could do this, or I have this idea, or I wonder about this. You'll hear like creativity, some playfulness. So this kind of safe place of possibility. Same thing with the ventral vagal. There's curiosity, there's compassion for others. You're hearing a story of connection from your clients as they're kind of sharing their narrative about life. Now, if you're kind of hearing more about a sympathetic response, you're hearing a story of an unsafe world and unsafe people. So this is what I hear a lot from my clients. I work with a lot of trauma. They are kind of experiencing their world. They're mobilized to survive. They're kind of just existing in this fight or flight. They're very hyper vigilant in times where, like, from the outside, it would be like, this isn't a time to be hyper vigilant, but they are. So you're hearing stories from them about an unsafe world and unsafe people. You're also hearing stories of protection and this kind of, I have to be better than everybody else. If I'm not better than everybody else, I'm going to get hurt. So it's this judgment of others, more critical, kind of a competitive mobilization. Because remember, fight or flight, right? There's that compete, because I have to beat you in order to stay alive. And then the bottom of the ladder is this dorsal vagal, where we're immobilized. We are shut down, withdrawn, shut down, collapse, foggy, numb. The story that you're hearing is despair. It's hopelessness. It's abandonment. Their spirit is, their flame, their light is just out, or very, very dim. This invisibility. And so you're hearing a story of disconnection and more of a, I'm never going to measure up. I'm never going to be good enough. So that very self-critical. I'm no longer trying to fight the other person to beat them. I'm just fighting with myself and putting myself down and not existing. So that's kind of the story you're going to hear more of. It's not going to be as competitive as the sympathetic story would have been. I really enjoy this. I think it's a really good example. One of the interventions is essentially creating this ladder with your clients and helping them really start to understand where in here they are and what that looks like. And I like the prompts of like the world is. So when you're in ventral vagal, we're connected. The world is welcoming and beautiful. And I'm okay, I'm alive and well. And so having your clients really be able to like break this down, and I have a couple other handouts that kind of do this same thing. It's just an open one. And in your neuroception, your awareness of what's going on around you is cueing you safety. When you're in that sympathetic response, the neuroception, the cues that you're getting are danger. The world is chaotic. I am out of control. Dorsal vagal, the neuroception is like, my life is literally being threatened right now. Like I cannot survive. The world is unwelcoming. I am untethered, abandoned. So I really like this breakdown here. I think it's really helpful to help clients really understand where they're at and what it looks like in each one of these spaces. So an intervention that can be used is notice and name. Where are you on this map? Name the state. And then turning towards your experience is a really important thing to do. It's not so like scary if you name it and notice it in a safe place with a safe person to be able to like really assess that experience and like, okay, what am I feeling and experiencing here, knowing that I'm not going to get completely sucked in by it because I'm with a skilled clinician with me to help support me through this. And then offering curiosity and compassion to the experience, because remember, our vagus nerve is not judging if it's a good or bad response that you're having. It's just acknowledging that my nervous system is responding to risk and safety. And so if we can remove some of that judgment that we put on ourselves and each other, like it's so much more manageable if it's just like, oh, it's just my nervous system is reacting this way. I wonder why. Oh, because of my trauma history. Oh, that makes sense. Let me notice that. And so it takes away this, I'm a bad person because I scream or yell when I feel threatened and I don't handle myself well. Like, nope, no judgment, just like a response from your body. Finding ventral vagal anchors. So like noticing times where you feel safe, helping clients be able to identify who, what, where, when. Do I feel safe? Do I feel connected? Do I feel open? Do I feel like there is possibility? And have them practice turning towards these and noticing them. When I start to feel activated, okay, let's grab onto your anchor here. What is your anchor object, or who or what? And how can we kind of engage that a little bit more? That helps to settle the nervous system down a bit. And then the third piece of polyvagal theory is co-regulation. So noticing our autonomic nervous system is sending and searching for cues of safety and danger, and we're getting these in interpersonal ways. And so we can co-regulate with other humans in order to create senses of safety. And so, but the vice versa is true. If your interactions are in ways that are not safe or feel it's a lot of danger, it's going to increase your reactivity and reinforce survival responses. So it could really go either way. I just like this little graphic. So the cues that we're putting out there are cueing safety or they're cueing danger. And so as therapists or clinicians, it's important to notice what cues we're putting out. So the eyes, we're sending messages with our eyes and what our eyes are doing. Our ears are always listening for patterns, rhythms, sounds, intensity, any variation in that. Like when, you know, like your partner's like, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Like tone matters very much. Tone matters. And that kind of hits voice too. So the way you're saying something is important as well, and being aware of tone, because if your tone's off, that's cueing the other person's autonomic nervous system like, hey, danger, their tone is off, or they're speaking in a pattern that is not normal or consistent to what we thought. That starts to cue some danger responses. Facial attunement is also very important, like nodding, engaging. Those are very cue things that we do that really helps build senses of safety for our clients. I love this head movement one. I didn't really know this, but a straight unmoving head is an automatic cue of danger. So if you're like real rigid with your head, but like, you know how when your dog like tilts their head and you're like, oh, it's so cute. Yeah, because it makes us feel safer for some reason when the head is tilted. So I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So head nods are great as well. It means I'm engaged, I'm listening. And so like, if you ever feel like I'm real rigid with this client here, like, okay, let me tilt my head a little bit, and that will send a cue of calm and safety. Just found this on the internet, thought it was good. Co-regulation steps with kids especially, but it works for everybody, truly. Benevolence, this is like just the basic thing that we can offer anybody ever, is this active, ongoing, intentional use of ventral vagal energy in the service of healing, which is all of this. I'm offering you safety, I'm offering you connection, I'm offering you curiosity, I'm offering you these ventral vagal safety messages. And that is really kind of the joining piece of therapy, is being able to offer that and have the client feel that and create another system where they just felt a ventral vagal response. Okay, so interventions. I got a whole long list here, so we're going to kind of breeze through these. Deep breathing. Yes, I know everyone gets annoyed with like, just breathe. Well, breathe. It helps. Breathing long, deep breaths from your diaphragm really do help regulate your nervous system, I promise. So square box breathing. There's all kinds of fun YouTube videos where it's like the little like thing opens and inhale and exhale. So lots of excellent things. This closed exhalation is a way to really like hack your nervous system. So you're like breathing normally, then you close your mouth, then you pinch your nose, not to like not be able to breathe, but you do like a slow push breath out. That activates that parasympathetic nervous system, which is a calming mechanism for you. Salivation, like I said, if you're being attacked by a tiger, you're not going to be digesting. Your digestion system pretty much stops. So if you can stimulate digestion through salivation, that's a cue to your nervous system that, I must be safe because I'm salivating. So like mints, sour things, food, anything that like kind of like, even if you like bite the back of your tongue, if that makes you salivate, that's a cue to your nervous system that like, I must be safe because I'm doing this thing so I can calm down. Cold water is good. Again, another cue. I must be safe if this is happening. And changing any of your sensory experience is always a good way to kind of hack that vagus nerve a little bit. So if it's hot out, get cold. If you are sitting in stagnant air, put a fan on you. If you're wearing shoes, take them off. Like any sort of sensory experience that you can change is always a good thing. If you're listening to something or it's quiet, change that. If you're smelling something, change that. Any sort of sensory change is great. Mindful physical activity, obviously kind of movement is a great thing. Vocalizations, humming, singing, gargling, any vocalizations that you can do is why in yoga usually end with an because that vibration cues your nervous system that you're okay and settles down. Again, the pleasant memories is that ventral vagal anchor. So we're finding anchors to like, oh, that pleasant time where I felt connected. Playfulness, again, you can't really be playful unless you're in that ventral vagal state. So creating situations where playfulness can exist is a great way to move into that ventral vagal spot. Same with the calm, soothing environment. Okay, so these are the ones that I shared with you, and you can kind of click on them yourself. The one is the resource map template, which is that ladder that I share that I kind of talked to you about. So this one's just a blank one. You can click on that. There's a bunch of other ones if you just Google it. There's all kinds of templates and you can create your own. The window of tolerance one is also pretty self-explanatory. You can see like where your window is, that your like kind of ventral vagal area, and then what happens when you get too activated or when you get like kind of in that dorsal vagal collapse. So that one's pretty self-explanatory too. And then that hierarchy of response image, there's a lot to unpack there. I really love it. It's going to take some time, not some time, but like a couple of minutes to really like sit there and see what exactly it's showing. I'm pretty much out of time here, so I can't like break it down for you. But if you check it out, it's amazing. And it also shows you what's happening in your body on the one side, like, okay, your pupils are dilating. So it's giving you some cues also physically. If your client's not real great at identifying where they are on their ladder, you can say like, all right, well, let's pause and see what our body's doing right now. And that is usually gives you a cue in order to where you are in that hierarchy.
And Teresa, just FYI, you have more time than normal today. So if you need to go over a little bit, it's okay.
Oh, okay. Well, fun. All right. So then I'll go back to that one sheet because I like it. I'll go through these three first because these are just kind of examples. So this is a way you could just make one a ladder for yourself to use with clients. You just want to really kind of keep the idea of I am, the world is. Those are two good pieces to identify in there. This is one that I use for kids. So like we're playful and now we're angry and we're fighting and we're competitive. And then this is like, I'm just in my shell. So another kind of way to do that for kids with less words. And then this is kind of that next step one. So I am, the world is, and then things I could do on my own or things I could do with others. So kind of like what resources do I have? So as you're kind of creating your list of ways to move into that ventral vagal state. So these are some of the interventions out there. Most of these exist if you just Google them if you like them. I want to go and look at this one. Does that make it big? Okay. So this is the one that I was saying. So over here on this side, when you're in your parasympathetic spot, you're going to see like these are the body things that are going on over here, which is nice. Like you're able to see like, okay, this is what's happening when I'm in my parasympathetic. I'm socially engaged. I'm feeling good. But then as arousal increases or threat increases, we move into that sympathetic space and fight or flight. And fight or flight means I can. If the arousal keeps going, the threat keeps happening, then we move up into that freeze, which is I can't anymore. So that's that like stop, dissociation, numbness, helplessness. So if we're in sympathetic, at least we still have some movement. Freeze is like we no longer have any movement. And then as the trigger goes away or the arousal decreases, then we kind of go over the hill here, comes back through fight or flight, and then down into social engagement. If you have a big history of trauma, a lot of the times we're living in this sympathetic and we have a hard time getting into that social engagement, which is why you really want to like listen to their stories and kind of hear like, what are their stories telling me? What are they saying? What are they sounding like? Is this a story of possibility or is this a story of competition and activation? When you're in that sympathetic nervous system, your blood pressure's up, your heart rate's up, your adrenaline's going, insulin activity goes down while you're in your sympathetic nervous system, your digestion is down, your salivation is down, and your relational ability is down. So like that's why you see people living in this kind of sympathetic state, that their interpersonal dynamics are kind of challenged because that is decreased by the vagus nerve because we don't need relational abilities if we're being attacked. And then up here in that dorsal vagal, in that collapse space, you have more endorphins that are helping numb and raise the pain threshold, which I think is an interesting thing. But it decreases facial expressions, eye contact, awareness of human voice, social behaviors. So like, again, that interpersonal dynamics are really, really impacted when you are kind of living your life in this parasympathetic space and in this sympathetic space. When you're really having your most like interpersonal engagement is in that ventral vagal piece. So I just really like this. I think it's got a lot of good information that is helpful for you as the clinician to use to be able to identify where your client is, and if your client's in a space that they can understand, using this as a tool in that way. Okay, so that's all I have for y'all. I'm sure we don't have time for questions because I always go too far. But if you ever have questions, you're allowed to email me. I love answering questions. I like talking about polyvagal theory. So Teresa at the Relationship Center of NEOhio.com, which is the longest domain name ever.